It's another Loudwire Nights first. We have Daze drummer Sean Dowdell joining us on the show tonight. And for those who are unfamiliar, Daze was Chester Bennington's first band pre-Linkin Park. He was just 15 years old when they joined, and they have an album on the way that we're very excited to learn all about. So welcome, Sean. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me, Toni.
My pleasure. Before we get into the songs and the record and the documentary, what was 15-year-old Chester Bennington like? I know you were, 17 at the time?
I was 17 when I met him, and yeah, he was 15, and he was all of 90 pounds soaking wet, and he had, really tight curly hair and glasses, and, my pompous ass thought he looked nothing like the rock star I thought he should look like when he walked in to audition for the band, and as soon as he opened his mouth, my jaw hit the floor, and we became fast friends. And he was amazing, even at the age of 15. Vocally, he could sing, and he eventually honed his voice and his vocal range and all those things that come along with experience. But even at 15, he actually had raw talent that was real clear, real fast.
Did you always sense that he'd go on to be this massively adored and respected musician worldwide?
No, I thought we would do it together. I mean, we played together for 8 years, and we put out 3 records, and we thought we would be mega rock stars together. And then the band ended up breaking up in 1998, and then he went on to Linkin Park after that. But while we were in the band, I thought we would be doing it together.
Why did you guys break up in '98?
So it's a long story, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. We had a couple of record deals, and being from Arizona, there was a lot of hurdles. But we were playing in front of 1,500, 1,800 people every time we'd play, and we were selling lots of records locally and regionally, and doing little satellite tours. But Chester had recently been married, and I was about to be married, and we started having different goals, and some of the members had drug abuse problems, and along with the drug abuse and alcohol problems, we had timing issues, and people weren't showing up to band practice or not showing up for sound checks and things like that. We started thinking, so some of the members, including myself, we started taking it for granted, and then those things just kind of culminated into a head, and we ended up getting into a big fight after a show one evening, and everyone just basically, told each other to f*** off, and we each went our own directions for a minute. And I thought for a while that the band would get back together, but then, our attorney in LA had called Chester and had him audition for this band named Zero out in Los Angeles, and that became, he ended up doing that, and that became Linkin Park, and I went on to another band after that as well. But it was just a culmination of things that caused us to break up at the time.
Okay. I know that you and Chester did the writing of all the lyrics. Would you write together? And what stands out to you from those writing sessions, 2 decades plus ago?
So we wrote together in several different ways. Sometimes he would bring just lyrics to the band practice room, and I would do the same, and then we would kind of work on a song, and he'd say, "Oh, these lyrics work for that," or whatever. We have a book of lyrics that we kept, and his and I stuff. And then so let's say he would write a song, and we would start working on it. If I had something to add melodically or lyrically, I'd sit down with him just on the couch, literally in the band rehearsal room, and we just kind of hash stuff out back and forth. Just with pen and paper. And then if it was a song that I wrote, I would bring it to band practice and hand it to him, say, "Hey, what do you think?" And he'd read it. And sometimes he'd be like, "This is cool." And sometimes he'd be like, I don't really feel this, but maybe this little part's kind of cool. And sometimes we'd meld songs together. The song that's on the radio right now is What's in the Eye. And that was originally a song I had wrote from start to finish, and then brought it to band practice. And then once we started writing the music and the melodies, and he started singing the words, he crossed out like the big, the chorus that I had written, and then he had written, "Don't go too fast, my friend, or you'll lose control." And that was basically in reference to a friend he had lost in a car accident just a few days before. So we wrote in many different ways together, but it was always fun, and we always appreciated what the other guy brought lyrically to the table. We both were trying to get our points across. I spoke a little bit more philosophically, and he spoke a little bit more emotively, and that was something that I thought was really special when it came together.
I think one of the most important things that people need to understand is that the vocals on this entire record are handled by Chester Bennington. He's singing all the songs. So explain to us exactly what brand new recordings of original Grey Daze songs means. So these songs were out there, but never heard quite like this. Like, break that down for us.
So right before Chester passed, in the end of 2016, he and I had a phone call, and we were also business partners. So Chester and I were very, very close friends, business partners, and we used to throw these big parties for our business, Club Tattoo. And he called and said, "Hey, we need to do another anniversary party, and I think it'd be cool if we put Grey Daze back together for that." And that sounded really cool. So we started talking about doing some live stuff. Then a couple months passed, and I said, "You know what? Why don't we try to retrack the records we did, because they had kind of been shelved by Warner Brothers when he joined Linkin Park, and they hadn't seen the light of day for 18 years or whatever at that point, 16 years." And so we started wrapping our minds around retracking him, and we started working with the producer. And this is all while he was still alive. And then we got to this idea. One of the producers we were working with sent in a track that was kind of a different take musically on than what we did, and we loved it. And we're like, you know what, this is what we should do. We should modernize these songs, because vocally, lyrically, the way he was singing these songs were great, but the music was still kind of dated and unproduced. So we had this idea of, let's go back and retrack all of the music, and then we'll retrack the vocals as well. We'll keep the songs as far as what the songs are intact, because we liked the choruses, we liked the verses, but we wanted a more modern feeling to them. So that's really how that got started. And then we started working with different producers. I believe we worked with 6 producers in total on the record, and restructuring and rewriting all of the music from the ground up. And what we did after Chester passed, obviously the music got shelved for a minute. We just kind of set it aside. It wasn't important at the time. And then 8 months went by, and I kind of picked it up and said, I'm going to finish this for us. And something he wanted to do before he passed, he wanted this music out there. I'll just fund it and get it finished. Well, through that process, the way we started was we took every single one of Chester's vocal tracks, and we stripped away all the music, and we rearranged and restructured some of the vocal parts, and then we worked the music around the vocals. So 100% of every song was written from the ground up around the vocals to make his vocals shine and be the center of attention on everything.
Now, there's a lot of additional musicians featured on the upcoming album, members of Korn, P.O.D., Bush, to name a few. Why not keep it just the original band? Why also bring in all these outside talents?
So a lot of people don't know this, but our original guitar player, Bobby Benish, actually died of brain cancer in 2004. So we were going to bring the original guitar player, Jason Barnes, and another guitar player named Kristen Davis into the band before Chester passed. He was in the group, and we were rehearsing and all that stuff. So as we started to retrack this, I got the idea in my head. I said, you know what? This would be cool to get some of the people that Chester loved and admired, and vice versa, people who loved and admired Chester, to come and play on the record as kind of a tribute to him, because they didn't get to play with him while he was alive. And it's something that I was trying to connect those things for Chester in a very special way. I didn't want to bring a bunch of people that didn't make sense, as we have a ton of people that would love to just play on this just to have the album credit or whatever. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was like, Brian from Korn is a really good guy and a good friend of mine, and Monkey is a good guy. And those guys loved Chester, but they never got to play with him. And when I played the music for Brian, I guess everyone would know him as Head, but when I played the music for him, he picked up the phone and he goes, "Sean, what is this stuff? This is amazing." And I said, I kind of described the project, and he says, "Oh my God, this is unreal." I said, "You know what do you think about maybe playing on a track?" He goes, "What do I have to do? When can I be there? I would love to do that." And that's kind of how it started. They came out to LA and they wrote with us, and they actually created some serious magic with these songs, and that's really what it was about, was trying to find a way to fit the right people around the music we were doing. And then, of course, we had a lot of people that were asking, once they got wind of that, how can I do this? And it wasn't about that. Yeah. We just said, no, we're going to keep it to a very small amount of people. And there's a singer by the name of LP who had a track called Lost on You, I want to say back in 2016. 2017, and I remember taking a car ride with Chester. We were going to have dinner or something. Actually, we were going to have lunch after we played basketball together, and he said, "You got to hear this girl. Her voice is so amazing." So that it just stuck in my head that he loved this chick named LP, and I had never heard of her before. And then when we started doing this project, I mentioned it to a mutual friend named Renee, um, and he's out of New York. He handles artists out of New York. He says, "Let me reach out to her and see if she would like to do something." And he did. And of course, she was a big fan of Chester's. And said, "I'd love to do that." So we brought her in, and she kind of sang a little duet with him, a song called "Shouting Out," and she did an absolutely incredible job. Something that Chester would be doing backflips over if he were here with us today. So that's really how we kind of got those people involved and nurtured those relationships and kind of curated this music in a way that makes sense and it wasn't exploitive and making sure that it made sense. And then another guy we had involved was Chris Trainer from Bush, and it's somebody who I had never met before, was introduced through that mutual friend Renee and Kyle Hoffman, the engineer as well. And he played on several tracks, and he brought a different musicality to the songs that we ended up having Chris play on several different songs because he just brought some real magic to it. So it was all done with love and respect and mutual admiration, and it all made sense and turned out I think we created a really phenomenal record.
Of course, have to ask about Jamie Bennington, Chester Bennington's son, who sings backing vocals on Soul Song. Why was it important to you to have his son involved in this upcoming album?
So back to the connecting people that made sense, right? So as we started bringing like Head and Monkey and Chris in to track with us, I got the idea. I said, Chester would have loved to have played with his kids. Let's invite all the kids to come down and sing with him or play a guitar with him, whatever they want to do, whatever they're comfortable with. Let's do that. So we did. We invited all of the children. We invited Jamie and Draven and Tyler and Lily and Lila, and Talinda wasn't quite ready to have the little ones come in, and that's totally understandable. And Draven was a little apprehensive about it. We may have him sing on the next album, but Jamie took us up on it, and he came in, and we gave him a couple song choices, and he sang on Soul Song and did a great job. And I'm particularly proud that we were able to connect that dot for Chester to be able to sing with his kids. And they're not super major parts that we had the kids come in and do, or Jamie rather, but it was still very special that we got to have Chester's son sing with him. Yeah. I never got to do that when he was alive, and it meant something on a much deeper level than so much musically. We didn't have to have anybody sing with Chester because he's great the way it is, but it just meant something a little bit deeper in order to let Jamie sing with his dad.
That's beautiful. Also, very important to note, I think, in my opinion, that the estate of Chester Bennington directly involved in the project. You have their support. Does that include creative input, or is it just kind of like do this, it's what Chester wanted, or is there more to it?
No, Talinda's been very open. She trusts me implicitly. We're also business partners. So Chester and I and my wife have a company called Club Tattoo. We've been business partners, been in business since 1995. We have shops in Arizona and Las Vegas. And so they have always trusted my business sense, my integrity. They know that I would never do anything to tarnish the image or perception of Chester. It's really something I take on my shoulders very seriously and wanted to curate and make sure that his legacy is living on in a positive light and not an exploitive fashion. So she trusts me to do the right thing from the get-go. And she just, I don't even know if she's even listened to it yet. We talk still quite a bit. I was just at her recent wedding, and it's just something that's still very painful for her. And she just said, and she has her friends listen to it. And she comes back and will tell me, so-and-so said this was fantastic. I'm so proud of you. This is great. Chester would be very proud. But she just lets me do what I think is right. Awesome. And everybody involved, from the band members all the way up the chain to Tom Wally, have really curated and been good stewards of this music and Chester's voice and Chester's legacy. It's been very important to us to do this the right way. So everybody understands the intention behind it is a positive and coming from the right place.
Speaking of intentions and trust, so the mini documentary is so interesting because we get to see and hear from Chester Bennington's parents and see his son in action. In it, you can tell that the family really respects and trusts you, and you're kind of like the fearless leader here in this project. As you mentioned, you and Bennington also business partners in Club Tattoo. What do you hope fans get out of this record and mini doc? Like, your goal for doing this is what?
Well, the first goal I had was just so that Chester and I could complete what we started. That was the first thing. The second thing was that I felt it was important for anybody who's a fan of Chester to realize that there were so many sides to him, not just Linkin Park. And this does not tread on Linkin Park. This is not in any way related to Linkin Park. This is 100% about Chester and Grey Daze. And Chester wrote some great music on his own. And it's important for me to fans to hear that. For me, I really want to make sure that fans understand that there's a whole nother side to Chester that they get to hear if they choose to. They don't have to, if they want to stick, sit with where he is in their mind. That's fine too. But I think that a lot of people are going to come to a different appreciation for Chester hearing this music.
Will Grey Daze have any involvement in the upcoming 320 Festival, which is put together by Talinda Bennington Friedman? Or do you envision touring in support of this record? Would that be a possibility? Like, has any thought been given to presenting these songs live?
We get a lot of questions right now, especially after people kind of got wind of what was happening. So we are possibly going to do something in a tribute fashion where we would bring on guest singers, notable guest singers that would come and sing the vocals. But I don't think we're interested in trying to replace Chester. That was never the goal of this project. It was, we're all very successful business people in our own right and don't need to chase this. Mm-hmm. We're trying to curate this, like I said earlier, the right way. So for me, it would be a little disingenuous if we came out of the gates and, this is our new singer. It's like, no. Mm-hmm. Chester's the singer of this band. This is about Chester. So if we were going to do anything live, it would be in a tribute fashion, maybe a festival or something like that. And we would make sure that would be completely wrapped in a Chester blanket. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Excellent. All right. That is our time here. Thank you so much for your time, Sean. It was really insightful speaking with you. And on behalf of Chester Bennington's fans all over the world, if I may just say thank you for giving us this gift of new music. Thank you.
Toni, thank you.